Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Before there was Oliver Anthony, before there was, you remember the red sweater guy in 2016?
Oh, that's right.
Remember? What's his name?
Red sweater guy.
Ken Bone.
Ken Bone.
Before there was Ken Bone.
Forget Ham Bone. Remember, it was Ken Bone.
But after there was Lenny Skutnik. You remember who Lenny Skutnik is?
Vaguely. Help me out.
He was the plane crash survivor, the Potomac, that received the life-saving medal for helping other passengers off the plane.
Yep.
The first person to be recognized in the gallery by Reagan, the president, during a State of the Union speech.
Okay.
And then that precipitated this.
Now it's gone into cray town.
Yeah, right. Every president does it. But before there was all of those people, and after Lenny Skutnik, there was Joe the Plumber in 2008 confronting President Obama about the costs of Obamacare. I want to buy a plumbing business, but you're going to increase taxes on me. That's no go. And he was profiled by both John McCain and Barack Obama. I mean, he was like dominant in absentia in one of their presidential debates.
And he eventually ran for office, remember?
Yeah, in Ohio. He confronted Obama in Holland, Ohio. Well, he passed away the other day at the age of 49.
You said pancreatic cancer.
Pancreatic cancer. Here's a little quick summary the Associated Press did of Joe the Plumber, both the infamous confrontation, although it was very genteel and gentlemanly, with Obama, and then his subsequent perspective on becoming political fodder for a presidential debate.
I tried to watch the whole thing, but my phone, I lost count after 200.
By some counts, Joe was mentioned more than 24 times.
It's Joe Wurzelberger.
Now, the conversation I had with Joe the Plumber.
I want Joe the Plumber to spread that wealth around.
In order to give additional tax cuts to Joe the Plumber.
The saga began Sunday when Barack Obama encountered Wurzelbacher. The Holland, Ohio man told Obama he was planning to buy the plumbing business he works for and that Obama's tax proposal would cost him more money. If cameras hadn't been there, the exchange might never have gained notoriety.
My son's getting a huge kick out of this, and, so it's really cool for him. Like I said earlier, if I can be used as a focal point, great, but ultimately there's major issues out there, and, I'm just a flash in the pan. So
Wurzelbacher calls himself more conservative than Republican nominee John McCain.
My first impressions after the debates was, McCain had a lot of good things to say, and he didn't get them out, and so I was kind of upset with him because I thought he could have done better. Obama, like I've said, is a great speaker, and I think a lot of people could be fooled by that.
He also calls himself a blunt person.
I hope people can relate to me because all my friends have called me that are all blue collar workers too, and they love the fact that I've said something and I'm getting this attention.
Yeah, that build up from 08 to 16 that led a lot of Joe the Plumbers to react the way that he did and start to confront the political ruling class.
Yeah, he did run for Congress in 2016. But he changed the way I shop for toilet paper. We interviewed him. I don't know if it was on this show or the place they used to work. And I said, well, what toilet paper do you recommend to use? Because he's a plumber that doesn't stop up or clog the pipes. And he said Scott's. And I have never, ever bought anything but Scott's toilet paper since that interview with him.
His contributions to your life will extend beyond.
Well, I'm just saying, and then I spread the word. He goes, spread
Yeah.
the word. If you don't want your pipes clogged up, buy Scott's toilet paper.
Jim Iuorio, who's host of the Future's Edge podcast. He's the proprietor of Brandt's Restaurant in Palatine. Jim Iuorio, what's your toilet paper brand?
I'm not sure. I don't. That's not my department in my house.
Yeah, very good.
Always
Congratulations.
kind of there.
But the Joe the Plumber thing is interesting. I mean, remarking on his life and that moment that he had with Obama, because it's the same conversation a decade and a half later about working men and women and what they're able to keep and an increasingly rapacious federal government. I mean, Obamacare seems like sort of a piker's gambit compared to what we've done in the last 15 years.
No doubt about it. So every couple months, I post a 20-year chart of small business optimism in this country, and I mark it up exactly. And if you look at it, and if you believe in the survey, which is one of the surveys I do believe in, that there is absolutely no question that certain presidencies just absolutely stomped on small business optimism. And then when you look at Barack Obama, and of course I'm pointing him out the most, like the whole "you didn't build that" speech, that's about, you cannot take credit for any of this stuff. We are going to be the ones who are the overseers. And then our mutual friend Carol Roth's book, you look the War on Small Business. You see why. She lays it out perfectly. They don't like the small businessman because it's harder to shake down the small businessman. So that's one of the reasons they come down as hard as they do. When I think of the story of Joe the Plumber, and it was almost kind of comical how many times they said it and how many times they used him, and it became emblematic of the small businessman. And small businessman hurts under bad administrations like Barack Obama.
And how's the small businessman doing now?
Well, they're doing very poorly. I mean, the taxes have gone through the roof. Probably expenses at, let's call it a restaurant. I know a little bit about that business. Our expenses have probably gone up between 40 and 45% over the last two and a half years. Now,
yeah, well, you have to pass that on to the consumers.
Well, we have made a decision to pass some of it on to consumers. We've raised our prices probably about 20%. I think most other restaurants have raised that more. But you guys have been to my place. We have volume, and we don't want to mess that up. We want to win in the end by giving people a good price. And we're at a price point that's going to, I don't want this whole conversation to be about Branson Palatine, but we are at the affordable luxury price point, and some of the nicer, higher-end restaurants may be suffering more than we are.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's a good microcosm of the larger dynamic going on. You're a restaurant that's otherwise successful, and what you need to do to maintain that success. It's not easy to thread the needle, particularly when you have the arbitrariness of the political class to deal with.
Arbitrary. I like that you threw that word in there because that's what I've been railing about for months and months. Depending on where you're starting the business in the arbitrary rate cycle, business cycle that the government lays out, it determines whether you're successful or not. That's ridiculous. It's just astonishing to me that we're okay with that as a country. It should be about who has the best business, not who was able to borrow money at 2% versus who has to borrow money at 8% and now can't do it. Just the whole thing is messed up.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that relates to this is the environment in particular states, and you have these sort of state-by-state comparisons and rankings. Smart Asset just did one. This is an interesting one because this is, about a state's future in large measure, where young professionals aged 26 to 35 who earn $200K or more have been moving. Guess who do you think the top net beneficiaries of 26 to 35-year-old 200,000 plus income earners? Guess which states are the top beneficiaries?
My guess would be Texas, Florida, oddly Colorado. Denver's doing pretty good too, but that doesn't fit into our model quite as much. But Nashville, Texas, Florida, right?
Yeah, Florida 1, Texas 2, Colorado 4, Tennessee 8, South Carolina 10, Arizona 9. And you have a couple of blue states in here, but it's like Wisconsin as to Illinois. When you move from, for example, New York to Connecticut, which is number 6 on the list, that's people fleeing New York for somewhere that's close to New York, just like people flee to Wisconsin. Not particularly a low tax state, but it's still better than Illinois.
No doubt. And think about it. Now let's go back to Branson Palatine real quick, and we're talking about the restrictive business environment in Illinois. Now, we have all that property. We have 2.5 acres of Branson Palatine, and we're only occupying less than half of that. We have everybody says, well, why don't you do this over here? Put up like a big tent. Weddings. No, if we develop any of that land, the taxes on it go through the roof. We have to be so darn sure that we can make money at whatever project we do. And now extend that's just our little restaurant. Now extend that over the entire state of Illinois, that businesses won't expand on land that they own because it's much more. But just the whole notion they tore down the racetrack just to avoid a $15 million a year tax bill because now they have to have taxes vacant land. So any chance that was going to go back to being a racetrack if the Bears thing all falls apart is completely gone. So the way they destroy businesses in this state is really frustrating. And the funniest part about it is they seem, based on the words they say, to want more tax money. And everything they do now, the wave has crested. They're getting less tax money because of their desire to pull in too much tax money, paradoxically.
I wanted to get your take on what Jay Powell had to say from Jackson Hole on Friday. The Oracle has spoken. Inflation's too high, not afraid to raise rates, and the market loves this. The market loves everything, especially if it's bad news. Your reaction?
Okay, first of all, I want to underscore one of the last quotes that he said, and I might get it not exactly right, but he said, "We are navigating by the stars alone on a cloudy night." So we face 400 PhD economists, including Jay Powell, and he's saying, "Yeah, basically, I have no idea what's going on." Which, by the way, that's what we kind of assumed.
Right. And then the market reacts positively. There's our guy. I have no idea what I'm doing. Finally, some good news. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of head scratching. I think I've worn off some hair scratching my head. But the point is that he still talks tough about inflation, which is all well and good, but he hasn't been tested yet. Perhaps we are just in the eye of the storm. And as we are moving to a demand destruction, which is what he wanted, to destroy demand, i.e. a recession, and he hasn't been able to bring that about, but it seems like he's been able to tame inflation. Now, these next inflation numbers that come on the 13th, there's some boosts in the service sector. There's some high-profile union wage increases that might start to feed into it. There's base effects. So if we start to see inflation tick up again and he has to talk tougher about rates, here's what I think will happen eventually. I think he will talk too tough about rates for too long. The stock market will break about 10% in a couple days' time. And then all of a sudden his tune will change. Like, yeah, we won. Let's lower rates a little bit now. That's what I believe will happen.
And when is that going to happen? And I know if you knew that, then you'd be betting your house on it. But what?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be telling you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You're not cutting anybody in on it. Yeah. So what's the?
Yeah,
but I mean, what's the horizon for you? You think where that
I think
that could be happening?
I think come the winter. I think come the late 2023. Next few months. I think the one thing that we wanted was to see all the efficacy of these rate hikes and come in so quickly. That's just not the way it works here. Our economy is an enormous. I heard one of my friends who's an economist once kind of compared it to maneuvering the Queen Mary versus maneuvering a motorboat, which is some of these small countries where you can turn them around in an instant. Well, the U.S. economy is the Queen Mary. It takes a long time to turn that around, and we're feeling that now.
Emphasis on Queen. Jim Iuorio, host of the Future's Edge podcast, proprietor of Brandt's in Palatine. Jim, thanks as always.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Tony Dreyfus, founder and president of Metropolis Coffee Company and a proud new customer of Signature Bank. We're a 19-year-old specialty coffee roaster located in the heart of Chicago. Some of your favorite restaurants and cafes serve